Yeah, we decided to do a really fun booth this year where, everyone here is a traveler, business traveler. So we decided that we are going to build an airline terminal because within any airline terminal you have pretty much everything that you're going to see digital signage. We have a coffee shop, we have a duty-free shop, we have a clothing store, we have a ticketing center, and at the end of it we have a Delta President's Club or lounge where people can hang out. So it kind of reminds them how digital signage is working in the real world, and it's getting great feedback. It's a lot of fun. The big thing we're introducing is Ultra HD, which is a huge industry trend. 4K products that really replicate lifelike looks. So it's kind of a new technology that many people are struggling getting the content for. But we think in a digital signage space, that's a huge opportunity because people really see a lifelike image. It pretty much wipes out any pixels that you're normally associated with seeing. So I think it's the next trend that people are going to see in digital signage. You're beginning to see that in consumer TVs, and now the big challenge is obviously the content because it's an ultra sharp image. But in the professional space, there's a lot of stuff that's taken higher megapixel cameras. So the content starts in Ultra HD, and in our world has been dumbed down to fit regular HD. Well, now we can show it in its native format. So we think that's going to be a big thing, and I'm beginning to see it in many booths now. I think the big thing is, two sides of digital signage, is the software side, the content side, and then obviously the hardware side. So I think more and more companies are going big with their displays. So, that's always been a mantra for Sharp is big displays, and there's more and more competitors out there, which is good for the industry. We think that it allows it to be in more places, so digital signage now can be higher up on a wall because you can now see it because the display is bigger. So the struggle there, though, is obviously the content has to match it. So you go larger format, you have more so-called floor space that you can advertise on and promote on. And so the software people are beginning to find great new ideas, on how to integrate that. The other big thing I'm seeing is interactivity. Both physical touch, but also using other technologies. So many booths, including Sharp's, has some kind of Xbox reader where we're able to capture images, and I'm beginning to see that too. So it's an exciting time for digital signage. The biggest challenge is why are you doing it? So many people just say, well, we're going to get into digital signage. We're going to, companies say, oh, we have to have digital signage in our hallways. What's the message you're trying to convey? What's the traffic going to be like? Who are the type of people going to see it? And I think for any on the integrator side, asking those questions up front with your customer will allow you to design the right system, pick the right partners, so that they get the most value out of it. Earlier today I was talking to a campus that was looking to put digital signage out their school, and we were talking about it and we got into, well, what are you trying to accomplish? And they said, well, we're going to put it in the campus center. Well, is that where students congregate to get what information? And as you got into conversation, well, ride sharing. Not a typical digital sign, that's usually a post-it pad on a wall. Well, now we can digitally share who's going to where on the weekend and who wants to drive home together. And then in the mornings we can share what the lunch menu is. And so it started from, well, we're going to do this big picture, promote the school, to, no, let's help the students. And that's where you're going to start seeing the ROI, and that's what I would advise anyone is understand why they're doing it so that you can deliver the content, deliver the materials so that the customer gets the most bang for the buck out of it. Yeah, more than anything, I find that people like to see themselves, not necessarily themselves, but I think the kind of the traditional advertising is we're going to put a beauty star, a fancy car, a wonderful looking person, and the average everyday person just walks right by that because they don't associate with that. We have very everyday people. A lot of our content, we use employees at Sharp. And what we find is that people can associate themselves with that image and kind of pause, oh, that's me in a different context, what are they doing? And so, I'd advise, don't go the glamour shot, go the more practical, go what people can associate with. And we've done a lot of that with our content to try to make it more personable to people, and we find we get a pretty good reception out of that. So it's a different approach. Well, we work, we don't do a lot of content software ourselves, but we work with a lot of partners. And so we find it, the market's really segmenting. People are very good at like wayfinding, or maybe some other interactivity where they want to do touch, or different segments of the market. They specialize in education or medical. So I think for anyone you really need to pick someone who specializes in an area. There are some large companies that can do it all very well, but I find typically you can see the gap. You can see someone who specializes in something and how good their content is. So in our booth itself, we have 6 different content providers, software companies, and plus our own content, to show that there really is some specialization And so when we talk to people coming to our booth and they're asking a particular question, we guide them to that right partner and say, well, they're pretty good at this. Look at the ability. So it is a segmented industry, I think. My estimation of the biggest challenge is ROI. A couple of years ago, everyone said everything's going to go digital signage, and you had those initial installations where they made a lot of sense. But now people are saying, okay, what's next? How are we going to implement digital signage throughout our campus, in a retail outlet? And now we've been saying, well, what are we getting out of that? What is the return on that investment? And so that's the biggest obstacle, because we see more and more projects end up being delayed, where the company or the mall or anywhere that's being installed says, well, exactly how much money are we getting back? Because this is a significant cash outlay. You have your displays, you have your system that manages it, you have some kind of kiosk or control, where it's housed, so to speak. So it's a big investment. So I think, if I go back to what I said earlier, understanding what your customer is doing it for will help you make sure you can explain that ROI later. When they say, okay, we did it for X, did we save in that area, or did we improve performance in that area? And not just say, oh, we have digital signage, we're not quite clear what we did with it. So if I had a tip, it would be understand why the customer is doing it, and then measuring that ROI, because that's always the hardest selling point to the end user. It's a huge business. It's one of our fastest growing businesses. We're kind of unique in our B2B unit. I've said this before, where we sell professional displays, operate 24/7, but the same sales team sells our Aquas TVs in what is a B2B environment. So there are a lot of places that don't need to be running 24/7. And so we pride ourselves as our sales team say, well, we'll support you no matter which way you want to go. You want to go prosumer, you want to go professional, or you want to go pure consumer TV, we can provide a product. And I think that gives a little bit more flexibility to customers, where they say maybe they like the design elements of a consumer TV versus what traditionally is not as design savvy professional display. So we try to navigate that whole spectrum for Sharp. So for us, it's the fastest growing segment in our business. It's very large. We won a number of awards in the last year within the industry for being one of the fastest growing companies in the industry. So for us, we think it's a huge opportunity down the road. It is one of the funnest shows, because actually you get either end users. So in this conversation, we talked about a couple end users that stop by the booth. You have the integrators. You have a lot of analysts. So you really get people who understand what they're trying to accomplish when they visit your booth, and you have a very productive conversation, frankly, because they know what they're looking for. They're not just asking very vague questions. They have a specific thing in mind that they want to accomplish. So we see, as of the shows we try to attend in all our different business segments, this is one of the more productive ones, because you're really getting an educated, I would say, consumer or professional who's coming into your booth, trying to understand how they can better their business. So I love it. I mean, it's fun. It's actually fun, because you're talking real world scenarios.